All right, in this case, we are going to be looking a little bit more at limits and kind of how that goes. Okay, so here's what you need to know. For the limit to exist, the left-hand limit has to be equal to the right-hand limit. So what that means is as you approach a point from either side of that point, your y values basically have to be the same. And I'll kind of show you what this means in a minute. But this means that you're approaching it from the negative side or the left side. So you're approaching x equals 7 from the left side. This means you're approaching x equals 7 from the right side when you see that positive on there. Okay. Also, limits that equal infinity or negative infinity don't exist either. So I'll kind of point some things out as we kind of look at some examples. Okay. So first of all, let's just sort of look at the limit as, this is a weird function, it's not even a function, but actually it is a function, but this is a weird graph, okay? And let's look at the limit as x approaches 4, okay? Now, notice that I don't have a positive or negative on that 4, okay? I'm just saying x approaches 4. So when I don't have a positive or negative, you actually have to look at both sides of it, okay? So if I was looking at x approaches 4, let's say from just the right side, so I approach x equals 4 from the right side. So here's where my x value is 4, right? I go up to hit the graph. As I approach x equals 4 from the right side, you can see that your y values are getting closer and closer and closer to that point, which is a y value of 4. Okay? So it's getting closer and closer and closer to 4. If I approach an x value of 4 from the left side, that means I would have to be approaching 4 from the left side, which would be going here. Then my y value gets closer and closer to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. My y value gets closer and closer and closer to 8. Notice that these two things are not the same number. Therefore, since approaching 4 from the right side and approaching 4 from the left side is not the same number, this limit does not exist. Okay, the limit as x approaches 4 by itself doesn't exist. The left-hand limit can exist, the right-hand limit can exist, but the limit at 4 has to exist from both sides of it, and it has to be the same number at both sides. Okay, and that is kind of a bummer because it doesn't happen. If, however, I were to look at the limit as x approaches 7, okay? Here's where my x value is 7, is along this spot right here. Okay, now if I want to find the limit as x approaches 7, I need to look at it from both sides. Okay, so if I look at the limit as x approaches 7 from the right-hand side, that means I'm coming at it from in here. Sure looks like my y values are getting closer and closer to 1. If I look at the limit as x approaches 7 from the left side, I come into it here, and again, my y values are approaching 1. Since these are the same numbers, my limit as x, well, I don't know why I have that, as x approaches 7 on this function would be 1. Okay, it is discontinuous at 1, but it doesn't have jump discontinuity where you would approach it from the left and right and get different answers. So it does have a limit of 1 here. Okay. On this one, I want to point out a couple of other points right here. Here, the limit as x approaches 1. Okay, we have two issues going on as x approaches 1. First of all, if I approach an x value of 1 from the right side, I get positive infinity. If I approach x equals 1 from the left side, I get negative infinity. Okay, and this is what I'm going to tell you. First of all, the fact that these are infinity right here make the limit not exist. They're also different numbers, if you'll say. One's positive infinity, one's negative infinity. So that does not exist right there. Okay. Then, this is the other thing I want to tell you. The limit as x approaches infinity. Okay, as x approaches infinity, that means that I'm moving off the right side of my graph. My x values are getting bigger, 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 and bigger. I'm moving off the right side of my graph. I'll even put a positive there so that you can see that. It's approaching positive infinity, okay? As I move off the right side of my graph, my y values are getting lower, 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 lower. So my y values are at negative infinity, okay? Because this number right here is an infinity symbol, it's negative infinity, that limit doesn't exist. And some people will write negative infinity. Some people will say it does not exist because it's negative infinity. It just gives you a little bit more information about why it doesn't exist, okay? But it doesn't exist because it's negative infinity. And you can never reach the destination of infinity. So because you can't reach that destination ever, it doesn't even approach a number, that the target that you're shooting for continues to move with infinity, and you'll never be able to reach it. So it doesn't exist. All right, and that's it.